Okay. Hi guys. How are you guys? How are you all doing? How are you all doing? Welcome to this live show. Of course, my name is Ayoti, and you are on Eagle Striker, the home of Nigerian football. Um, we are live for a quick, I say quick, but we can be here for the next 2 hours. I don't know. But yeah, let's do a roundup of the transfers that happened with regards to Nigerian football players this summer. Of course, the window is still open in certain leagues, certain countries. So there's still a chance that one or two players, or 5 or 10 players, move before the end of the window in all the different leagues. But the window is closed in Europe, or in majority of Europe. I think the window in places like Turkey is still open for a few more days. The window is still open in places like Netherlands, I believe, and some other leagues around Europe. And then, of course, Saudi window is still open for 3 more days, and things like that. But yeah, in the major leagues, La Liga, Premier League, Serie A, the Bundesliga, the window has closed. Before we get into it, please, I just want to implore everybody to like the video if you haven't already. Please subscribe to the channel also if you have not already, and just share this video so that we can get more people tuned in. I appreciate every single one of you. I really, really do. Um, if there's any transfer, any player, any updates that you need, please leave it in the comments so that I can respond, um, or I can at least give you whatever updates we have about that situation. Um, but yes, thank you very, very much, guys. Thank you. I'm just waiting for my guests to join as well. But let us get into the program. There have been so many transfers. There's been so many transfers this summer. Some big ones, some small ones, some average ones. But Nigerian players have definitely been on the move. I will tell you that Nigerian players have definitely been on the move. It's been an interesting summer. It's been an interesting transfer window. Again, because of some leagues that are still open in terms of their transfer window, I'm expecting even more moves in the next 3 days. I'm expecting even more moves in the next 3 days. Um, Let me see. Someone said I to drop your bomb, Super Eagles Fabrizio. Don't worry, I'm not trying to be Super Eagles Fabrizio. But maybe one day, maybe one day. One thing that I don't do now is I don't really go asking people for updates on what's going on. I honestly don't think I'm a journalist, so I prefer to wait and for things to happen, and I comment on them. I talk about it. I don't consider myself to be a journalist. But yeah, lots of transfers. Recorded over 50 something, and I'm sure there's obviously transfers that we missed as well. Of course, we are not going to talk about every single transfer that happened this summer. We just can't. And with all due respect to everybody, not every transfer is that big to take up time having a conversation. With all due respect to people, but a lot of Nigerian players were on the move. Including female players as well, young players, academy players. Just so much has been going on. But we'll earmark some of the interesting or the top ones. And with me to discuss this topic, as well as, of course, we'll discuss the Super Eagles coaching disaster that has happened to us in the past few hours. But yes, with me to discuss this is Olu, returning to give us vibes again. Olu, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Happy to be back on. Always a pleasure. As you said, a lot to talk about. NFF, it as well.
A lot to talk about. But before we get into the NFF, because I know once we get into that, we'll make a lot of comments. Let's just quickly talk about transfers that happened over this window. Again, like I said, the window is still open in certain countries. So there's still more that is going to happen. For example, I'm expecting something to happen for Emmanuel Dennis within the next 3 days. I don't believe that Watford wants to keep him. I'm expecting something to happen for Paul Onwachu. Trabzonspor have been working hard to try to resign Onwachu. The window in the Turkish Super League is still open, so that remains a possibility. Um, I think Sadiq is probably going to stay at Real Sociedad. So I think we might be able to close the door on that one. Victor Osimhen looks like he's staying at Napoli unless something huge comes from Saudi within the next 3 days and he accepts it. Osimhen looks like he's staying at Napoli. Let's start with the Osimhen one. Let's start with a transfer that did not happen.
Uh,
So this Victor Osimhen transfer has been the talk of the summer. Right from the start of the summer, we've known that Osimhen is leaving. Even after Antonio Conte joined Napoli as the new head coach, he immediately told us that Osimhen is not part of the plans. He has an agreement with the club to let him go. We heard about PSG, we heard about Al Hilal, Al Ahly, Chelsea at some point. Arsenal was mentioned as well. And then with the window closing in I'll say major European countries, Osimhen is still a Napoli player. Chelsea made him offers. I believe we heard that they made an offer of 130 something K. He said no. They made an offer of 150 something K. He said no. And they said their best offer was about 180 something K. And Osimhen still said, nope, I'm not taking that. Um, what are your thoughts on this whole drama, and how do you feel now that Osimhen is most likely going to remain a Napoli player?
I mean, it's a very interesting situation, as you said. Um, I mean, I'm a bit stunned for words that he ended up nowhere, you know, especially the way things went from yesterday and today. I just assumed that he'll probably end up at either Chelsea or Al Hilal. Um,
Alali, you mean?
Al Ali. I mean, on a surface level, first thoughts are just at least we have some clarity. Like you said, unless something magical comes from Saudi, we expect that he will remain a Napoli player. And it doesn't look like any of the Saudi clubs are going to buy it yet, although I would not be surprised if that happens at all. So what does this mean for Osimhen? At the end of the day, he has to look out for his own interests and do what's best for him and his career. And I just feel like him standing his ground, at least from some of the reports I've seen, is fair enough on his part. Like there's an element of feeling like he's probably been lowballed a little bit by Napoli. I mean, when you hear this guy's post news reports about Napoli asking for another £5 million after they heard that um, the Saudis are going in for Tony, it just left a bit of a interesting taste in my mouth. So, I mean, what can we say? He's a player that we expected to go, but he's still at Napoli. I'm glad on one hand that he's not in Saudi because when we talk about legacy and Osimhen's potential, first Nigerian footballer of the year since '99, top 10 Ballon d'Or we've ever had. We really know what his potential is, regardless of what people say. So a part of me is really happy he's not in Saudi. But then when I heard about the Chelsea move, I even made peace with it as I like to show, as an Arsenal fan, it's not exactly something I was looking forward to, but you know, uh, I was just like, at least let him come to the Premier League. We can watch him, he can get his exposure, can really show how good he is. I think no matter what we say, the Premier League is still the most watched footballing league for a reason. Like yes, people say they watch La Liga, people say they watch Serie A, but nowhere near the same amount. Me and you, how many times have we defended Osimhen's footballing style or the way he plays? Because I like to think we've watched enough Serie A games, watching him specifically, to at least form an opinion, a proper opinion compared to 7 games at AFCON merchants. So I just don't know where it stands. It's a shame. And but hearing Chelsea lowballed him with the money, that was really disappointing to hear. I think there's a certain level of respect that comes with the career he's put together so far for Napoli. People might say, "Oh yes, you won the Scudetto one year." A lot of clubs have never done it. It was the first Scudetto since Maradona's time. He was the Capocaneri. You know, he literally scored over 30 goals in all competitions that season. Scored, I think, 26 Serie A goals. You know, we've also seen him play in the Champions League in at least 2 seasons and always perform. I don't want to hear any of the big game rubbish. Most of the big games Osimhen has played, he's either made a contribution or had a very good impact. So rightfully, with his status, he has the right to demand a certain wage. Yes, Chelsea can decide that yes, we have a new wage structure or a direction we're going in. Yes, before there's been some mismanagement or we've overpaid players and we're going in a certain direction this year. But at the very least, if you decide to do that, then at least show the player the same kind of respect and just be like, you're a star player. We want you. At the end of the day, it's not Osimhen that went to Chelsea. It's Chelsea that went to him. So then telling him to comply with our wage structure, I found that very bizarre, especially with the reports of, I think you mentioned they went up to 180 something thousand, which is
Yeah.
even I've heard, to be honest. I saw the 155 one, which I just thought, come on, you have to be taking the piss. Like, what are we doing here?
Mm.
So sad overall. At the end of the day, he's our best player. He's our star player. He's the pride of the country. I would have loved to have seen his future sorted out, but at this point, I guess I'm either holding out on one hand, hope that the Saudis will still come, because let's be honest, one of those teams, especially with their whole centralized structure where Emenalo is the sporting director of the whole of like 8 clubs or the whole league. One of the girls might just be like, you know what, come on, this is too good to be true. Let's go in there.
Mm.
Napoli probably are still relying on some kind of income coming in. And I heard Osimhen is really upset with Napoli, rightfully so. And Fabrizio said there's a complete breakdown. So, never say never in football. I would rather he stayed in Napoli and played under Conte and tried to win the Scudetto, but that looks like it may not happen. Because
Yeah.
let's Osimhen is better than Lukaku. I'm sorry. Forget Conte's style or all the things they say. Or Conte actually played with Lautaro and Lukaku anyway, Lula. So maybe you never know what could come, but let's see what happens. But ultimately disappointed.
Mm. Okay. I mean, I think it's a point for everybody that this transfer did not happen. Even if not this transfer, that a transfer
A
did not
transfer.
happen. I said it earlier. When we spoke about these topics in the past week. Or in the past weeks rather. For me, again, I don't tell anybody what to do with their own money. Osimhen signed a contract with Napoli. I think when Fabrizio Romano was talking about it earlier today, he said Osimhen is on about 11 million a year net.
Okay.
So he didn't want anything less than that to join Chelsea. Um, you know, 11 million a year is a lot of money to take in your pocket after taxes. And I mean, if we do the math, let's just assume Chelsea's best offer was 180,000. Um, you know, per week. That comes to about 9.3 million, and that's gross. So after the British taxes, maybe he goes home with uh,
Ah,
five. Five.
they tax 45% at that income bracket. So and
So
nobody's exempt.
So if they're taxing 45%, that means it goes home with about 4.2,
Wow.
4.2 at the end of the day. So if you are going from 4 million, from 11 million net to about 4 million net, I mean, that's a big drop off in wages. So we can kind of understand why Victor Osimhen will be reluctant to do something like that. Of course, the contract will probably have had bonuses from goals scored. Chelsea maybe finishing in top four. There would have been other things there that would boost the
Ginger.
income. But overall, the base salary, which Osimhen was not very willing to compromise on, was a big drop off. So we can understand why a player will say, no, I don't want to take that kind of big drop off. But now looking at the situation, unless he decides to go to a different Saudi club within the next 3 days, what we are hearing that is most likely is that he's going to remain at Napoli. He's going to keep on collecting his salary. He'll go train, go home. Go to the training, go back home. If this happens between now and January when the window opens again, what impact do you think this can have on Osimhen's value and Osimhen as a football player? What do you think can happen?
That's a great question. I mean, I think Osimhen's value, there's no doubt about it, is only going to go down. If you're not playing football and you're not showcasing your talent and your contract is running down, just from a pure economic standpoint, it's going to go down. But at the same time, does that serve in Napoli's best interest? We've heard from, the likes of James Horncastle that they've been relying on this Osimhen income to kind of, pay for some of these deals. I don't know if everybody's seen today, they've signed Billy Gilmore and McTominay as well. So Napoli, whether they like it or not, they're not in the Champions League. They need the money, So something is going to give, and people are not happy. So Napoli cannot be happy about this value,
Yeah.
which is why. a part of me still thinks they will find a compromise some way, somehow with the Saudi guys. But ultimately, for the question asked, his value is going to go down and he's going to be cheaper to be purchased in January. As he's, the way he feels as a player and just the way no player doesn't want to play football. You know, from what we always hear, playing football is almost like, the joy. It's your profession. Nobody likes to be on the bench or to be banished. So you like to think that if he ended up staying there, they'll find some kind of compromise. Osimhen does not seem like, I mean, he's too good of a player to just be banished to the reserves. Yes, we can say Conte has strong head, but like, come on, like, surely something has to give. I mean, it must be said, Napoli overplayed their hand here
Mm.
slightly. Yes, people could say, okay, he deserved the new contract when they gave it to him in December. But really and truly, like, he knew that this summer he'll have 1 year to go. And he was already on decent money. I don't want to speculate, but he wasn't earning peanuts. I don't know if he got a contract extension before, to be honest. But December they come at you, they give you the money, and there's a release clause based on the season you had previously. But when he signed the contract in December, let's be honest now, LT, we were already seeing Napoli were already looking a bit shaky. It's not like they were doing that amazing. Yes, he got that great assist for Kvaratskhelia that everybody was talking about. But apart from that, Napoli must have surely known that 130 million, especially with all the financial regulations coming in all the leagues. Let's be honest, the Premier League is kind of like the tap that trickles down to all the other leagues when it comes to transfer windows and money. But the moment PSR came in, everybody should have had a bit of an inkling at the seriousness of it. And now we're seeing that effect in terms of, I think this must be this is the quietest transfer window deadline that we've ever had, in my
Mm.
opinion, compared to what it's usually like. So Napoli just overplayed their hand, and here we are stuck with this, very sad situation. From what we've seen, Osimhen is very stubborn, so we might get a situation where truly, he might just train and go home. But you would like to think that somehow, some way, a compromise will be found. Like from I don't even know where, but we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, and for me, I am really interested in seeing how this situation develops with Osimhen and Napoli, because I don't think Osimhen, honestly, I don't think Osimhen is going to want to just be training and going home. I think he's probably going to say, "Hey, you guys didn't sell me, so you have to play me." And if they choose not to play Osimhen, it is only going to fracture the relationship even more than it already has been fractured. So it's going to be, we when Osimhen signed this contract, I'm sure he was really hoping to God that by the time it's time for him to leave, it would be smooth and he would just walk out of the door, smile, say goodbye to everybody. But now, I don't know how Napoli is going to fix this relationship.
And
The
I
only
can't
way
lie, it's so sad, man.
yeah.
Like
The only way Napoli can fix this relationship now is to say, you know what, for the delay, okay, let's give you another 50K a week added to your
I
contract.
do, but from
Because
what we're hearing, they can't afford itself, to be
yes,
honest.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
everybody is trying to balance the books these days. It's gone are the days in football where you just make 50 million loss, 100 million loss, you don't really care, you pump in more money next
So
season.
we move in, and it's such a sad situation because when you think about the adulation that the fans had for him, what they were able to accomplish together, I don't think we can ever explain the magnitude of Napoli winning the title. Yes, for a while they were second, third, fourth. But think about how Liverpool won that they won in 30 years.
Mm.
And that's still it. I don't think sometimes we quantify how much these things mean. A city that had just three, that's
Mm.
their third one ever. You go to the city, everywhere you see it plastered all over the whole place. So with the adulation and him feeling like I've accomplished what I need to accomplish here, I've done my best, there really must have been that thought that this is just going to go smoothly. I'm adored here. I can always come back. Is respect. I've spoken to the president. De Laurentiis has given me the contract. He's paid me more money to show his appreciation, but he's also given me my release clause. We have a gentleman's agreement. When they even remember that interview he did, I think it was in December when he was saying, I know what I'm going to do.
With CBS, yeah.
Like I know what I'm going to do. I'm sure that my mind is made up. So it kind of gave a bit of an inclination that, we're going to part our ways. I'm sure nobody expected that he would still have a bit more injury problems, especially post AFCON. You
mm,
know, I would have probably played a few more games. And then when you're still scoring goals, but the team is really struggling. I mean, worst title difference in Serie A history, I think, was since the 40s. I
mm,
think they ended up finishing ninth. Like watching them it became almost a comedic joke, to be honest. Like you turn on the game, you're like, they're losing all their home games. It just looked like such a not a nice environment. They changed their manager what 2 or 3 times.
mm,
So the whole concoction just seemed to just affect everything about the way they would have been planning for everything to go to the end. And it's so unfortunate because look at where we are now. Although one thing I would say, even though it was Siemens Hotel, I really like that he stood his ground. Like
mm,
if what I'm hearing about being offered wages and Chelsea trying to lowball me, or Napoli, telling Ali that they'll pay extra 5 million, like after we've had an agreement, like I'm sorry, like you're playing ball with my career.
mm.
And then I don't want to speculate, but is it the kind of thing where obviously the terms they agreed with Chelsea are different from the terms they agreed with the Saudi club? Because okay, Chelsea have given me Lukaku on favorable terms, or at least a decent price. So let me scratch your back too, you
Mm.
know. And they're now trying to frustrate, like once they heard okay, the Saudis are going to give, they have something for Osimhen. So the whole thing just leaves a bit of a bitter taste. And
Let me just cut you off very quickly. I just saw that Gianluca Di Matteo has revealed the offer that Chelsea made to Victor Osimhen, the final offer.
hmm,
So 4 million per season net guaranteed, plus another 4 million in bonuses. So 2 million if you qualify for for the UEFA Champions League, and 2 million for goals and appearances. Um, so 4 million nets, like we said, compared to 11 million nets at Napoli. Um, that's a big drop of 7 million less guaranteed than what he was getting at Napoli. So I think
wow.
we can understand why Osimhen is not willing to take that kind of drop in salary. If I know football fans, it's very easy for us to speak because we talk about how these people are already
What
rich,
they're earning,
but
yeah.
the reality of it is, imagine you're earning $100,000 a year, and your new job says, "Oh yeah, we can only pay you 30,000 or 40,000 a year." I don't think you are going to accept, even if your former job says they don't want you. If you are under contract and
Also,
they have to pay you,
also,
um,
I is their markets. Like, I agree with you 100%. Like, let's not watch another man's pocket. Like, they're Premier League footballers or European League footballers for a reason. There's a market. If you're the highest paid player in Serie A, it's for a reason. You did not put a gun to anybody's head to pay you that money. So nobody should pocket watch your dime. And let's be honest, IoT, have we ever seen a scenario where a player is 25 years old? He's still in his prime. In fact, he's not yet in his prime.
yeah.
And then he's making a transfer move and he's taking a pay cut.
Mm,
Please correct me if I'm wrong. You can hear of sacrifice here or there, maybe with some boyhood club fanatic or something, but it's not normal or done. You're rewarded for your excellence and shown at the value that you are respected at, and they bring the money.
mm,
So to then hear that they're offering you, these kind of sums, and you're supposed to come in and let's be honest, you will be given the burden of a star player alongside probably Cole Palmer,
mm.
but they're going to put you in the wage bracket of, correct me if I'm wrong, Arsenal fan, I'm not sure. But I read from what they're offering him, he's not even going to be in like, or he wasn't going to be even in like the top five earners. I don't know how correct that is. I don't want to speculate too
I
much.
mean, I think it depends. So let me look. Again, 4 million a season net. I'm not exactly sure what that comes to um annually, or rather weekly. I'm not exactly sure what that comes to. But if we go off of the 180K that was reportedly offered to him, let's just say 180K. So 180K would put him, I think, one, two, three, four, five, sixth highest earning at Chelsea, 180K, alongside Enzo Fernandez. The people that would have been earning more than him would be Raheem Sterling, who is on his way to Arsenal, Rhys James, club captain Ben Chilwell, who they are looking to offload, and Wesley Fofana and Christopher Nkunku. Um, so I think again, for me, I said it on previous live. I understand Chelsea's point of view to an extent. Chelsea is a rich club, but with this financial this thing, you can see Chelsea is selling player from Chelsea to Strasbourg, just trying to balance the books. So,
This is the name of your owner talking to himself.
so it's a bit of a tricky situation for Chelsea. They just don't have that much money to just spend anyhow like they would have in the past. So I understand why the wage structure is there, why it's incentive based. Oh, you do well, we up you, things like that. They want to protect their investment a little bit. But also, I fully understand why a player will say, "No, I cannot drop my salary this much, to play for you."
Bro, why we shop in our everybody knows the market they shop in. Arsenal did not go and think we can get into Mbappe discussions because we're not paying Mbappe salary.
Mm,
Like you can't go to a player knowing what he's earning. He's already the highest paid player in Syria. We already know as a rule of principle that we've just accepted that if you're 25 and in your prime, you're the reigning African footballer of the year. You were in the top 10 of the Ballon d'Or. Even in your so-called off season, you still scored 15 Serie A goals in 22 starts.
mm,
Even though everybody tries to make it seem like he had this disastrous season, you are definitely in your right mind to expect that someone's going to come to you correct
mm.
and offer you a salary bump. At the very least, even at least to start, it might not necessarily be like, okay, blow me out of the water like Saudi, but come on here, I'm a star player. Like, talk to me nice.
Mm.
You know,
Olu, sorry. Let me ask you this question though. Who can pay Osimhen the money that he wants? Again, I know that Osimhen, like, let's not get it wrong. The money Osimhen is asking for is not money that players don't earn. A lot of players even earn more than that. But amongst all the teams that are looking for strikers, because again, we would have expected there to be a lot more teams that are coming into the race for Osimhen this window, which wasn't the case. So who do we think is out there that, let's say January comes, who will accept to pay Osimhen what is earning at Napoli? Who do you think?
that's a great question because at first I was thinking, look, a lot of clubs can afford to pay his salary or what he would demand. If I'm being, let's just think of like what we know from normal football knowledge or football manager. Let's just say 300K a week. Let's just say that's his. You know what? I'm coming. It's not Saudi, but I'll go.
Hmm.
We know the big four, at least 4 or 5 clubs in England can pay that. PSG can pay that. Um, Nobody in Syria can pay that, definitely. And probably Madrid at the moment, definitely not Barcelona, and probably Bayern Munich. Now, I think Osimhen, unfortunately, is in a weird bracket where a lot of these clubs have either established starting strikers or strikers that they're betting on already to take
Hmm.
them to the promised land. Like in Man United, they've bought Highland, they've bought Zersky, Bayern have Harry Kane, Inter have Lautaro, Juve have Vlahovic. You know, most of the English clubs, Liverpool are still doing their Nunes Jota. Let's see who becomes the best shooter. And then let's just ignore Chelsea for now. Man City have Haaland. That leaves you with probably Arsenal and Bayern Munich. And
Bayern
there's
Munich have Hurricane though.
oh no, not Bayern Munich, sorry. PSG.
PSG.
PSG. I have this weird feeling that there's a PSG shaped hole waiting. Now, PSG are going through this period where they're blaming teams. Mbappe has left. Everyone's feeling free. I don't know if you've seen their stats. I think they're like +9 goal difference after 2 games.
Yeah, they're balling.
Everybody's feeling jolly. But have you seen their Champions League fixtures? I don't know what PSG did to UEFA, man. They
To
said
the
they
computer.
but I'm telling you, I saw PSG's fixtures. I said, wow. So it wouldn't surprise me if PSG, because we know they had an agreement with him earlier in the summer, at
Yeah.
least on contract terms, would then go back in for someone like Osimhen in January. So PSG is the one I can see. Nobody in Spain, definitely. Nobody in Germany. Nobody in Italy, and then England, Arsenal. But that just depends on how things go. I saw Killer Kai Havertz say he set himself a goal of 20 goals in the Prem this season. So I'm feeling confident. I love him to prove me right. I was feeling good about that statement. So I would say PSG out of all of them. But if we look at the whole situation, PSG and Arsenal look like they may have the opportunities.
Hmm.
But PSG looks like the one that I would say looks like the right fit.
Yeah. And I really hope something can happen with PSG maybe in January, or maybe Chelsea come back with a better offer in January. Who knows? But It's a really tough situation, man. I wanted Osimhen to move to Chelsea.
Are you
Everybody knows.
surprised Chelsea did not? Are you surprised Chelsea? I'm very surprised that if they wanted him that much and they went down there, is a part of you surprised that they didn't just go?
I feel like honestly, seeing how everything played out, I feel like Chelsea wanted him, but they did not feel desperate. That's honestly what I think. I because Chelsea, we know that we want a new striker, but I feel like they just maybe, and that part of the reason why, at least according to Fabrizio Romano, part of the reason why they did not go in for Osimhen since the start of the window is because they knew that they were never going to be able to pay him what he wants. So they
Okay,
went in late saying, okay, maybe if the window is closing and he has less options, he might be willing to compromise and accept what we are able to pay.
okay.
So they are saying that Chelsea knew from the start that they cannot pay Osimhen what he wants. So that's the reason why they went in late. Maybe if he's desperate, he might take it. You know.
I don't know how you guys feel, but to be fair, there is a very strong argument. How many did Jackson score last year? 15 or
Yeah.
14
No. In the Premier League or in all competition.
in the Premier League. So I guess there's a world where, as Chelsea fans, the natural progression, and let's be honest, it's his first full season last year playing as a striker.
Yeah.
There's a world where you're thinking, you know what,
Maybe this guy can become something.
you know,
Because like I said, it like at when Osimhen was Jackson's age, Osimhen scored 17 goals, Jackson scored 14 goals. So
14.
look at how Osimhen progressed. Chelsea has spent money on Jackson. They might just be thinking that as much as we want somebody else, what if this guy turns out to be a
The
good
guy,
it to be a good player for us? So I feel like they were just not, like, it wasn't a do or die.
he wasn't buying
Yeah,
like
it wasn't a do or die thing for Chelsea. So maybe that's why they didn't like say, okay, we'll break our whole structure. And these Chelsea owners, nobody can really tell what they are going to do these days. All of a sudden, they are buying Jadon Sancho, But
bro. I know we're not talking about that, but 20 seconds. How do you feel about that?
honestly, I look at it. I feel like it is a risk-free move for Chelsea. I mean, they paid because it's a loan with obligation to buy. The obligation to buy is for a fee of 25 million.
Okay.
Um, if Sancho, because for me, if Sancho can do half of what he did at Dortmund, it can turn out to be a good signing for Chelsea.
Again,
And
yeah.
if he doesn't, it's like, well, we never really expected anything. Life goes on.
Fair.
But
Almost
yeah,
like Sterling and Arsenal, but
exactly. Instead of Arsenal, it's like, okay, if he can show what he can do, then he will be a good signing. But if he doesn't, it's like, well, he was finished anyway. We knew.
Abi,
um,
fair.
but yeah, let's leave this Osimhen matter for a couple minutes, just
Yeah, we'll see.
to talk about other players. Ademola Lookman also looks like he's going to stay at Atalanta. He didn't play today. Thank God. I'm sure when Inter was already flogging them in the first half, he probably told the coach that don't you dare bring me on. Don't you dare bring me
Oh,
on today.
I was wondering, like, is it that Inter as good? Obviously, we know Inter are the best team there, but the way they just beat the hell out of them, I was like, what was
Yeah,
going on?
you know. But how do we feel about that? Ademola Lookman, of course, he had the personal agreements with PSG as well. Club to club agreement just never happened. He wasn't interested in Saudi, and he's going to start Atlanta. How do you feel about that?
My thoughts are very, very well documented. I'm very happy with this situation.
Mm.
To be honest with you, I was not convinced, or one of the people that thought Lookman should move or was necessarily at the right stage in his career to move. He's been at Atalanta for 2 seasons now, I believe, maybe three. No, I think it's two. He's had very, very good seasons. He's won them their first trophy in 64 years. He's consistently hitting very, very good numbers. Arguably one of the standout candidates to win the African Footballer of the Year. He's going to play in the Champions League, scored in the Europa League final, hat trick. So everything does seem set up for just, a nice bout of continuity. He turns 27 in October. So it's not like he's in a hurry to, like, still at a very good age. So I just felt like there's no rush. This is going to be his third season. He plays consistently. He starts all their games. I just could not understand the angling. Yes, you might want to take advantage of, like, okay, I'm a bit hotter than I'm the sensation at the moment. Let me see what's out there. But nah, man, sit down with Gasperini. Now you're in the Champions League. Let's see what you can do again, my boy. And then next summer, you'll still be 27 years old. Let's see what you can do for us with our World Cup qualifiers as well. and then go again next year. So no problem with this one. I'm sure he'll be reintegrated in the next week or two. I was even looking at see if he'll play today. So, but to be fair, if you're Gasperini, you're probably thinking, I beg, we're losing 4-0 already. Even himself is like, let me not humiliate the boy, like there's no need.
Yeah.
So no complaints to this one as well. I think the right decision for all parties. Even if Lookman was angling, I think at the end of the day he will stay. Obviously, PSG probably offered him quadruple his salary. How it goes with the Parisians, but no complaints.
Mm. And just for context, I think Lookman is on about 44k euro a week
Mm,
at Atalanta. So I definitely think he deserves a payday. He
of course.
deserves a big jump. A bigger club that can pay him at least even 100 a week. Something like that. But do you think there's any chance that Lookman kind of falls into a situation like Osimhen is in right now? In the sense that Atalanta have already started the season not so good. Won their first game, but then got beat by Torino, got beat by Inter.
Yeah.
Of course, they also lost the Super Cup against Real Madrid, but that's kind of to be expected. But assuming their season doesn't go as good as it was last season, and Lookman, of course, as a result of that, doesn't look as good as he did last season. Is there a chance that maybe in the next transfer window or in the summer, he might not be able to get the kind of interest that he was getting now? Do you think that's possible?
I mean, it's always possible. You can never predict football, but when you look at like the Syria, the teams in Syria this season, Atlanta are one of the few top teams that still have continuity. A lot of teams have changed their managers, whether it's AC Milan, Lazio, Juve, Bologna, a lot of the teams that did well last year. So Atalanta are actually one of the most stable sides alongside Inter. And after finishing fifth last year, their team is still pretty much the same. They didn't really lose. They lost cup minors, which they kind of already prepared for at least mentally.
Mm,
But they haven't lost too many of their gems. So honestly, I don't think there's, at least compared to like what happened to Victor last year, I don't think there's too big of a risk in terms of his value tanking. Obviously, you're now playing with the big boys in the Champions League, so the chances of him scoring a hat trick in a final in Europe this season are almost slim to none, if we're being honest. But I still think he has a lot of games to showcase his talent. The fact that he was named on the bench today is also a very good omen, which means that there's no real bad blood between him and Gasperini or the Atalanta management.
mm,
So that lets me believe that, they just said, look, Ademola, you gave us our first trophy 64 years. God bless you. We know you wanted the move, but you're here, baby. Just relax. If I was Atalanta, I just Googled their salaries. You're right. I mean, I've always known they're one of the best run clubs in Italy, but these salaries are shocking me. I don't lie, bro. They only have two players earning more than 64,000 euros a week, and
mm.
that's Zaniolo on 89 and Skamaka on 114,000. So if I was Atalanta, I would find an extra 40,000 euros a week in my budget to pay our final hero, and then let's see how it goes. But risk of his season turning into not going too well, or his value tanking, I don't have any of those fears. I really think he's probably even going to knuckle down, and now that he has this motivation to even reach the bigger heights, we should see him back in business
Yeah,
at a
and
better
and
place.
and I think the Lookman situation doesn't seem as toxic or as negative
Oh
as what's
no,
happening with Osimhen.
oh no.
I guess he politely asked to leave, give me a chance to leave. If the deal did not happen, okay, I'll come back. I'll play football for you guys. I'll try to be as successful as possible, and of course, maybe next summer I'll ask to leave again. So that's the situation with Ademola Lookman. Let's also talk about one other transfer that happened today. Super Eagles midfielder Frank Onyeka completed a loan move to Augsburg in the German Bundesliga. Augsburg, of course, is not a team that I'm sure most people watching, maybe 10% of people actually watch Augsburg games. He started their season with a win in DFB Pokal and then a draw against Werder Bremen in the German Bundesliga. But Onyeka, of course, is somebody that was on chicken change minutes, like you described it. Chicken change minutes at Brentford, coming on for 9 minutes, 6 minutes there, 10 minutes there. They will play him in Carabao Cup, then Premier League again. He'll be on the bench. How do you feel about this move going to Augsburg? A team that is not going to be competing for anything, may or may not be in a relegation battle depending on how it goes. Do you think this is a good move for Frank Onyeka?
To be honest, bro, this one caught me off guard. I'll be honest. When I saw the initial rumors, also linking into Valencia, I know Valencia have also started La Liga. Shockingly, I think they've lost all their games, but Valencia, at least reputation-wise, we know Valencia is, is still La Liga, so you could say slightly above the Bundesliga. I was hoping he'll go to Valencia anyway, but when I saw Orban, I just thought, okay, at least as long as he gets minutes. This one is a strict move on just getting minutes and playing football, Looking at their record, as you just mentioned, bro, I just looked at their last 6 seasons, or 5. They've pretty much been just above relegation. Germany has 18 teams, so they
Yeah,
finished 14th or 15th 3 times. I think once they finished 13th, and then last year
was probably
they
their highest.
they finished 11th. They won 10 games. So
Yeah.
this is a firmly mid-table team, So let's just call it a pure minutes play. Let Onyeka just get minutes. To be honest, with you, it breaks my heart slightly because when I played Football Manager in 2020, Onyeka was like they were giving him like,
Prospects.
bro, they gave him like prospect to play for like Monaco, like the top teams in France. So it hasn't necessarily gone that way. But Onyeka also surprised me at AFCON. I didn't think he had that in him. I'm not going to lie to you. So here's a player where you could even argue he probably played a slight consequence of going to AFCON and playing well. Because before AFCON, yes, he wasn't starting all their games, but I definitely know he was getting more minutes pre-AFCON than post-AFCON for Brentford. Once he came back from AFCON, it was as if he was just shut out. Like, Omo, you know what? We've learned how to win without you, and we have a structure that doesn't fit you at all. We'll give you chicken change minutes, as I said. So this one, let him just get some minutes, get his career back on track. To be honest, he's going to be a bit out of sight, out of mind because no one really knows or follows much about Oberg. But let's see how he does and let him just get some minutes in the tank and hopefully he can still at least keep the level up for Super Eagles.
Mm. All right. That's that on Frank Onyeka. Of course, wishing him all the best. Hopefully he can do well, and hopefully he doesn't get relegated because I
Right.
am tired. I'm tired of watching Nigerian players in relegation battle. We know that some are still going to be in this
That's
season.
why I love Syria. I love talking about Syria. It's the one league where we have a good amount of players doing
At
it.
the high level clubs in the
Yeah,
league.
man. Everywhere else, sometimes it can be a bit of a pain. But okay, I'm Bundesliga now with Boniface and Co. Let's not forget.
Yeah. Even though we still have Hoffenheim and we have
Uh, Oberg now, Abi.
now Augsburg, but yeah, Frank Onyeka, of course, wishing him all the very best. Okay, let's talk about the transfer. Another transfer that did not happen. Um, Talking about Stanley Nwabali moving to any club. Instead, he resigned with Chippa United in the DSTV Premiership in South Africa. A 3-year deal. They said it was an improved contract. We don't know the exact terms. And of course, they also made him to be the team slash club captain. How do you feel about this one? We had heard rumors of him being linked to QPR, all sorts of clubs. And then he has decided to stay with Chippa United. How do you feel about this?
Sorry, I was just trying to see how Chippa United finish in their leagues. So yeah, another like relegation, 12th out of 16, 14 out of 16th. I mean, to be fair to Nwabali, look, let's not lie. Before AFCON, we didn't really know too much. I know he used to play in the MPFL, but I'll be hypocrite if I said I knew who he was. I heard about him when they played that Mexico friendly where the NFF sabotaged their players and organized a FIFA grade A friendly with only
Home based players.
and they charged us 4-0 and our ranking tanked,
Mm.
But normally after the AFCON he had, I mean, let's be honest, we were all blown away. He still hasn't really made any big mistakes for me in the Nigeria, between the sticks. I wouldn't attribute any of the goals in World Cup qualification to him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, I wouldn't say Nwabali has really made any mistakes. So
No, I think you're right.
the way he's been performing for Nigeria, we'll have to say that we would have expected him to get a bigger move, maybe after the exposure of AFCON. But we can also admit, as a goalkeeper, you're probably the least likely to get a move on the back of your performances in a tournament, especially from Africa. it is changing stereotype wise. We have a lot more African goalkeepers in Europe now, whether it's the Bonos or, obviously Mendy's gone now, but a lot of teams have good. Onana is Manchester United's goalkeeper, like, come on, think about that. Would we have ever expected that 20 years ago? You know, when you just think about the quality of players, even, Maduka back in one of the top five leagues, but it would have always been a tricky one for nobody to have made that step up, especially to a place like England where they're so snobbish. Because look at the same Okoye that Watford in the Championship was doing Shakara for, now playing in Syria, So at the end of the day, I have no real qualms with this one. I feel like he's probably settled and happy in South Africa as long as his performances for Nigeria do not drop, because I don't think he's done anything to lose the number one jersey. But at the same time, if we are being objective and looking at form, Okoye playing in Syria, and playing well, you would have to say if he was on club performances or merit on club form, before they attack me, I'm not saying Okoye is ahead of for me, but for now, Nwabali continues to start, and as long as performances remain the same, there's no problem at all. Let him keep going. Let him keep trying to impress when he plays for Nigeria, and hopefully his time will come. But then also, he's also a victim of age. I think Nwabali he's not young. I don't think 28 years old. There we go.
Yeah.
No surprise there.
Mm. For me, honestly, I won't lie. It gives me the feeling that um, a lot of the rumors that we were hearing were just audio rumors, like to say, and not anything concrete. Maybe a club had just said, "Hey, tell me a little bit about this guy," and all of a sudden, "Oh, this player is interested in Wabali," things like that. Because clubs will generate a list of maybe 7 players that they're interested in, and they can inquire about all of them. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are going for that player. I also think that Chippa United created some of the reports to generate a bit more interest and see how much money they could potentially make um,
That would make
from
sense.
him. But at the same time, Super Eagles, currently the Super Eagles number one goalkeeper. It would have been nice to see him move to a bigger club. But of course, hey, like you said, he has not made any mistakes. He has not done anything wrong. He has not, failed us yet. I say yet because I believe that there's no footballer that will not make a mistake at some point. But it's an interesting one. I hope that whatever renewed contract they gave him is a substantial improvement on his contract. I know that the South African league pays more than Nigeria for sure. Paid decent
For
wages.
sure now.
It's not quite like Egypt, but it's not a bad league at all. It's well run, and hopefully he can continue to do well. And maybe in the future he can get a move. But like you said, based on club form, based on club level, Maduka Okoye is doing better. I think for these games that are coming up in September, now that now that the coach is not who the coach maybe Nwabali might just be in goal, but of course Nwabali has not played a game this season yet. His season hasn't started. So for me, I personally would prefer Okoye to go in goal for these 2 games. And see how he performs, see how he does in training, and maybe let them compete for that starting shirt. But with regards to this one, kudos to Stan Nwabali. As much as they don't like Nigerians in that country, a Nigerian is the captain of one of their clubs. Is an interesting one. I
I
wish him
woke
all
up
the best.
second leg, man. Oh my god, I can't wait.
I wish him all the best. Let's talk about another transfer that happened. This one, I don't think I've seen an official statement, but I saw what's it called? I saw a a reported press release that was put out by the club. We hear that, and I have to call him this. Super Eagles defender Benjamin Tanimu. We heard that he has completed a move to Crawley Town in the English League One. Um, I know like you've had your reservations about the fact that he was included in the Super Eagles in the first place. But how do you feel about that? A Super Eagles defender going to play in the English League One in the third tier of English football. How does that make you feel?
I mean, my thoughts are well documented. I always come from a good place here. I think the Super Eagles, we want to be respected. We call ourselves Giants of Africa. I believe we have the quality in our squad pool to be a giant of the world. So we have to be treating our squad with the same respect it deserves. Meritocracy, call up your best players,
Mm,
And I don't, I always tell people, I have nothing against the MPFL. I want the MPFL to do well. I want it to flourish. I want it to thrive. I want it to be the best. I just want us to be objective because football is one of the few things that we can be meritocratic about. And when the MPFL is the 12th best league in Africa, or even let's even say move to Tanzania, no problem. They're number six. We can even take that one. That's good. We'll even accept. But judging on the performances I saw from him in a Super Eagles jersey, despite not believing he deserved to have been called up, because I don't believe in, oh, let's keep quota because you are home based, we'll give three spots.
mm,
I did not see the kind of quality we expected, especially in a World Cup qualifier. In fact, I think that is one of the most disgraceful things Finidi George did in his 2 or 4 game tenure. I
mm,
know too where like it was almost like for someone who played for the Super Eagles and went to the World Cup and went to AFCON, for him to have done that was bordering on gross negligence.
mm.
We had this guy as a right back, you played him as a centre back twice. Like no confidence on the ball, error strong performances, just not doing well. But this is not even a bash. I don't want to bash him. All I'm trying to say is it was not his fault. He was thrown into the deep end where he should not have been there. You don't throw a 3-year-old baby into the deep end of a swimming pool if you haven't taught them how to swim. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. So apart from the performances we saw, he should not be in Super Eagles fair. But now we're seeing the true level because, with all due respect, if you're going to move to the third division in England, a third division in England player should not be playing for the Super Eagles. We're not um give me a country, Sierra Leone, or certain countries in Africa that their talent pool is so weak that they have to, go to some of these lower league standard.
Some countries even call amateur players.
There we go. But if there's one thing that we can even still lay claim to Super, you as Eagles tracker, God knows the number of players you track every week or day in Europe. Talent is not the problem.
Yeah.
So we cannot use that as an excuse. So if someone is moving to Crawley Town, I have a soft spot for Crawley Town because it was near one of the places I went to school in, but still, it just shows the level. So good luck to him. Maybe he could be like if Dele Bashiru, who, 2 seasons ago was in League One,
Wednesday.
went straight to Turkey, balled out for Nigeria in one game and is now playing well for Lazio. I know it's just 2 games, but nobody would nobody who has watched Visaya will say he looks out of place in Syria, at least so
Mm,
far.
yeah.
So maybe if Tanimu can become that one, no problem. I have nothing against him. I just could not stand the lack of meritocracy and the hypocrisy of them saying, this person deserves to play for the Super Eagles. And he contributed to us losing one of those games and drawing the other. So, but we wish him well. I hope everything goes well. Like you said, it's still a, whether you like it or not, life changing move in terms of moving from Tanzania to England,
Yeah.
because he's a Super Eagles international. That'll probably make his work permit a breeze because we know how those ones go. So whoever gave him those caps, you knew what you were doing. I know you will collect your. So good luck to him, and we
Yeah.
wish him all the best.
Good luck to him. We heard that the deal is about what's it, 500, 600,000 euro. So a good move for him. I don't know how much he's going to make at Crawley Town, but I can almost guarantee that it's more than what he's making in Tanzania. um and of course, I honestly do not expect him to continue being a part of the Super Eagles squad. But for him, hey, his career is taking a step up. And who knows, maybe from doing well in Crawley, next thing we see him in Turkey somewhere. Before we know it, we see him in France or in Italy. Whoever knows, I wish him all the best. Obviously, I have nothing against him, and if it works out for him, we'll all be glad and we'll celebrate. We'll celebrate him. So that's that on Benjamin Tanimu.
So
Um,
Crowley even just got promoted from League Two. So good luck.
yeah, but I mean, let's also even wait for them to make an announcement because
Oh
they
yeah.
haven't made an announcement yet. So whoever knows what can still happen. But yeah, some other transfers that happened over the course of the summer that maybe we should just talk about. Of course, our Super Eagles captain William Troost Ekong made a move to Al Khulud club in Saudi. Just in 1 minute, Olu, how do you feel about that transfer?
Sorry, just someone said, "What's wrong with you mentioning Sierra Leone in terms of weak players?" I didn't say Sierra Leone is weak. I just meant they have some players who play in lower leagues playing for their country. I'm,
Maybe that person is Sierra Leonean, so they
I'm
took
looking at
offense.
the Sierra Leone squad list, and there's a player who plays at Cambridge United, Sule Kaikai, and Mustafa Bundu from Plymouth, and Curtis Davis at Cheltenham Town. Like, no disrespect, we aren't trying to abuse anybody here. It's all
No, I
love,
understand.
you know.
But yeah,
Anyway,
Ekong to Saudi. Just quickly,
I mean,
how is that
I
fair?
mean, we expected this one anyway. We heard about the rumors immediately after AFCON when Fabrizio tweeted that the Saudi clubs are looking for him. Me, to be honest, true, right now, I can't say any bad thing about Ekong. Like the way he rocked our world in AFCON, where you
Mm,
talk about getting goodwill in the bank. Like, obviously, objectively, I would have loved for him to stay in Europe and build on the fact that he was the AFCON MVP, which means that you're a player of a certain caliber. PAOK, where he was at in Greece, we know they didn't make the Champions League group stage. So maybe
yeah,
he
in the
could,
Europa League.
maybe would have liked to have seen him like play for in the Champions League. I don't know. I wasn't too mad at it. They still won the Greek league. But
Mm,
I still like when our players I'm a top five, I'm a biased top five league guy. I
mm,
like Portuguese league too. I like Belgium. I don't mind those ones too. So top eight league. There's a reason why these are the top eight leagues for a reason. It's
yeah,
not bias. Turkey, I don't even mind if you are playing for the big clubs, the Fenerbahces. But at the end of the day, I don't begrudge him a move. He's 31 years old.
30,
You know,
I believe.
or he'll be
30.
31 later this year. He get your big payday. You've earned it. So go and get your coin, my boy.
Yeah.
And hopefully, as long as let's just pray he's like Laporte. The Laporte I watched in Euros, not a single drop off in performance. So as long as Ekon keeps performing, because he's our captain as well, let's be
N'Golo
honest.
Kante as well. Not,
Kante as well, forgive me,
still
Kante,
not a top player. Yeah.
Kante as well. There we go. So, and as our captain, he's earned the right to continue starting. Just keep playing well, and there'll be no Allah. But
Yeah.
if we
I
hear
think
about
I think my only concern for Ekong in Saudi is that his club is not a very strong team. They just got promoted. They signed a bunch of new players. They've lost their first two games of the season, so it's looking like it might be a struggling season for them. But I hope that Ekong on his own has a good season. And even if his level is going to drop a little bit because of competition, I hope that he doesn't drop that much. And he's still when he plays for Nigeria, we hope that he's still able to put in the kinds of performances that he was putting in at the AFCON and before he moved to Saudi. But of course, at 30 years old, I cannot fault you, man. Go and make your money. This is probably his one payday that he's going to get in his career. He's
I'm
been
telling
playing for average clubs his entire career. Let him go make some money and at least be able to retire with his family, enjoy life in London. Um,
shout out to you. It's because of Eagle Striker. I even knew that his club was not that good. I saw the I saw the first two updates. I
so
saw
yeah.
that. I said it's gonna be a long season, boy.
Mm.
But
Let's talk about another transfer that happened. He was officially presented as a player, I believe it was yesterday or earlier today. Yesterday. Al Yusuf, made this move to New England Revolution in the MLS. Of course, New England Revolution is not one of the top MLS clubs, whether in terms of brand or in terms of what's it called,
Thomas,
in terms of performance. But again, we can only speculate on why he made the move. They're currently out of the playoff positions. But yeah, at the young age of 24 years old, this is a player that a lot of Nigerian fans had high hopes for. Just quickly, how did you feel about this move, and what are you expecting in terms of maybe Super Eagles call ups and things for Alassane Yusuf in the future?
I mean, briefly, economically, I would like to think he's probably gotten a pay rise. So hopefully, at least, maybe from a lifestyle perspective, living in America has an appeal compared to living in Belgium. But it's not nothing against Belgium. Belgium's a lovely place to live. So maybe from a lifestyle perspective and family or economics, that I can see the appeal of that.
Mm,
But make no mistake about this, like from a competitive standpoint for your football career at 24 years old, like coming off the fact that you won the Belgian league the year before, and then you also broke it to the national team. You had a very, very good performance at AFCON, which, let's be honest, almost every Nigerian at least has an idea what Hassan Yusuf is now because
mm,
performances in tournaments matter. and you're just expecting him to either build or take that next step. Yes, last season he wasn't starting that many games for them, but I just from a developmental standpoint and career, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like I feel like he had the potential to probably still do a good job in Europe. I don't know if we had seen enough to say he could play for a good team in the top five league or like a mid-table team in the top five league. I'm not sure if we saw that yet, but he was playing in Champions League. He made some Champions League appearances last year, so to go from that to MLS at 24 or more. Well, shout out to him for the economic reasons, but it's not one that sits well with me. And I think Super Eagles prospects, let's see. If we're giving the benefit of the doubt to the Saudi guys, if Alassane Yusuf can still put in a shift for Nigeria, like he did at AFCON, then maybe we give grace. Because our pool of central midfielders is not exactly like overflowing. Like we have a good amount. Like Ndidi's bouncing back, or Yedika is beginning to play well. Aribo has started games now. So he just has to be careful because I think there's a world where the next squad, Aribo comes back in for him. So let's see how it plays out.
Yeah. Again, not the move that we all wanted to see happen for him. But in terms of the finances, I'm 100% sure that he's making a lot of money in the MLS.
Uh,
MLS usually publish player salaries, so we will know how much he's making eventually.
do you know if he's
But
a designated
but
player?
sorry,
Do you know if he's a designated player? Like I think
I'm
they have
not
like
sure exactly. I'm not sure exactly what his allocation was. I know he came in under injury replacement thing that they have in the MLS.
a,
But yeah, compared to at Antwerp, he was making 5,500 a week.
oh wow.
And that's gross. So obviously nets probably taking
Champions
home,
who wow.
probably taking home 3,000 a week. When he was
Damn.
at Antwerp. So of course that was a very low football salary. So
Wow. Yeah.
um, he probably had financial incentive to take the move, family life for his future, maybe raise his kids there, things like that. Long term might be a good solution for him. Of course, for Super Eagles, maybe it's not what we wanted to see. He's in the squad for these games. It will be interesting to see if they keep on calling him up. If we have other midfielders, somebody like Aribo playing in Southampton, and things like that, because it's always a challenge comparing players that are playing at different levels of competition. You see somebody playing in the Premier League and you're like, this guy is not doing too well in the Premier League. But then you now start hyping a player that is playing in some other league that is like 6 times weaker than the Premier League. And it's like, bro, like sometimes I think I can't remember, there was a player that performed and somebody was saying, yes, I think Akin Somiro did well in one of his games.
Serie B.
And somebody was saying, this is what Iwobi cannot do. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, you think if you put Iwobi in the Syria B today, you think Iwobi is not going to run the show?
Uh,
You know,
it's like our serial. There's a same comment the other day now that we're talking about the squad list.
mm,
Like obviously you can give him his props, but like I always say, that guy is such a big lower league bully, big league flop. Like no offense to him, like
bro,
so I feel
it's a very interesting one, but
very, very, very
wishing him all the very best for sure. And for me personally, I don't, because I live in North America, I do not mind
good
Nigerian players coming to the MLS.
guys.
Unfortunately, the season is already kind of done. But
I know.
next season, when they come to play in Canada, when they come to Montreal, I mean, there's a Nigerian player in Montreal as well, so I'll probably go and watch the game and see my Nigerian boys. So
And he's
hey,
actually one of the better ones, so
yeah.
he's still a good
So
player.
personally, I have reasons to be happy about it. Um, Let me see. Okay, so that's that Alassane Yusuf. Very quickly, let's just cover a few more players. Um, Gabriel Osho to AJ Auxerre in the French League One. In 1 minute. How do you feel about that one?
I'm not mad at it. Like, I mean, he's a player that last season was his first time playing in a top five league, in the top division. Most of his career he played in the lower leagues, So go and do your thing, bro. Play in League One. Let's see how it goes. He started their first game, and at the moment, they've won one game and they lost one game. So let's see how they battle out. I think this one is a win-win for everybody. And I think he only signed for 1 year. So fingers crossed, if he does well enough, they'll either extend or
Yeah,
ultimately.
it's 1 year with an option to renew if they stay up. He'll renew with them. Um,
So perfect. I think everybody's happy with this one, man. As long as he's starting games, fantastic.
mm. Okay. Give it a shot. Let's talk about one Super Falcons transfer, and then we'll move to two more transfers, and then we'll go to Super Eagles. Very quickly, Super Falcons transfer. One of our upcoming star girls, Jennifer Onye Echegini, the lone goal scorer for the Super Falcons at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. She completed a move to Paris Saint-Germain Feminine in the French Ligue 1 for women. Um, season is yet to start, so there's nothing to report in terms of performances yet. But just based on prospects, how do you feel about this one?
I mean, looking forward to it for her. Like, PSG are one of the two best teams in France. And let's be honest, the French league, at least when it comes to women's football, you can argue that either their league, the Spanish league or the English league is the best. For a long time before the Barcelona dominance, it was always Lyon winning. So looking forward to it. Let's see how she performs. Obviously, she was born in the Netherlands. She also grew up. She played some of her youth career in England, so she has a very interesting history. So I'm sure she'll settle in quite well in France. I'm just looking forward to seeing how she plays well. I think watching the Olympics, I know there's always like mitigated circumstances, but I was really disappointed watching the Falcons, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like watching them at the World Cup last year made me so happy. Like I used to be at work trying to sneak, an eye to watch the match when they were beating Australia. Like they didn't lose a single game. They kept clean sheets against Canada, kept clean sheet against Ireland. We kept a clean sheet against England. We lost on penalties. Like we're just done so much that I just thought with the quality in the team and the kind of players we have, surely the only way is up. And for it to have been so disappointing really was annoying. I know Plumter was not there, but for Echegini to at least have scored our sole goal and at least showcase her talent to an extent and now go to PSG, it's one of the more promising things that came out of the Olympics. So looking forward to seeing how she gets on. I hope she starts, we know how these things always go. So first season, maybe off the bench, I don't know, but as long as she gets enough game time and improves as a player, I think that's a win-win for us. That's a win-win for the Super Eagles. And one thing I must say about our Super Falcons, with to give them their respect, we have a lot more players playing for top teams in our Super Falcons team, arguably compared to the men's side. At least when it comes to La Liga, MLS, and France. So shout out to them, man.
Yeah, and even the NWSL as well is a strong league in women's football.
NWSL, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a fantastic one. Of course, wishing Echegini all the best. I'm not going into my own opinion because I've spoken about this before. So anybody that wants can go and watch our previous videos. But two more transfers to talk about. Two players that moved to the same club. We'll just wrap up with these guys. And of course, like I said, there's a lot more transfers that we cannot cover. As of my last count, I have to go and look at the updated list. We had seen about 50 something different Nigerian players move clubs this summer, and we're still expecting people like Onwachu to move, people like Emmanuel Dennis to move. Some people are still going to more than that. There's still going to be some more moves before the window closes within the next 3 days before the window closes in all the countries. But yes, let's talk about Kelechi Iheanacho and Chidera Ejuke. I think these, based on the moves that we've had so far this summer, they are probably the two highest profile moves that we've seen involving Nigerian players. If Osimhen had moved, if Lookman had moved, obviously would have been higher profile. But Iheanacho and Ejuke both went to Sevilla. Sevilla, of course, a team that after many years of being the best team in the Europa League, they've had a slump in performance. Last season wasn't good for them, and they're now trying to rebuild and get better. And of course, they signed these two Nigerian stars to help them. Ejuke, after being on the bench for their first two games in the season, they played him from the start in the last game, and he was very good for them. Created six chances, did pretty well. Nacho yet to impress as much, but of course we're hoping that he's able to find his feet. But Olu, yeah, just very quickly, how optimistic are you about this player's performance or performances in Sevilla, and of course, what are you looking at in terms of their Super Eagles chances going forward?
Excited. Like as you rightfully said, Sevilla haven't necessarily been the team that used to finish in fourth or third. I think they finished fourth in 2022, but the last 2 years they've been mid-table. So, but at the same time, it's still Sevilla. You could argue that apart from the big three, you could even argue Sevilla on the same level as Atletico Madrid in terms of being well known, and they definitely have far more Europa leagues. So excited to see how they do. I hope the style of play in La Liga, less physical, would suit both Iheanacho and Ejuke. I'm really excited with Ejuke, especially because we know that technically he's a fantastic dribbler. I would argue it's probably his best quality. So I think La Liga suits him very well. Look at what you just mentioned about him creating 6 chances in one game. And we know the game before it was even lively. So I'm really excited to see how that one goes. With Educate, I've always been super excited, but my worry has always been his end product. So I want to see what he can do at Sevilla this season. Also, Iheanacho, I've always said I want to watch Iheanacho be the starting striker for a club in a top five league for one season and to see what he can do. The last few years have been a bit underwhelming, but I'm just intrigued. Let's just see how it goes, bro. I don't want to say too much because we've seen the potential before, but we also know that Iheanacho has not necessarily been the one to showcase his true talent to the his full potential. So let's see. But I'm excited about both of them. And Sevilla, stop using our players for content if you're not going to play them. So cheeky, so cheeky.
Oh, yeah, that's what they did with Ejuke, and it was so frustrating. But I'm happy that they started him in their last game. And of course, yes, we wish all the players all the very best. If you want
Said,
to,
Ayo, though, what you said about one player, someone said Gift Urban scored. I was just gonna say
yes,
that's
yes,
something I was very happy about because you called it that you didn't think he was going to move. But for me to pleasantly, when I heard about him scoring a brace today, I won't lie, it made me so happy. So shout out to
no,
him.
I mean, and I watched the game. I wasn't watching the game until once I got the notification that Gift Orban has been subbed on. I immediately tuned into the game, and he paid off my attention with 2 goals. It was nice to see. It was nice to see. Hopefully, he can continue like that.
Are those
I'm
his
just
first Eguavoen goals?
no. He scored one in the League One last season.
Okay, he scored one.
Yeah, and it was 2 good finishes. One with his some Zlatan like finish, stretching his foot, and finishing, and then one a nice header. As they came back from 2 goals down to win from 2 goals down, they were losing 3-1. They won the game 4-3. It was really nice to see. But yeah, let us get into Super Eagles talk. Let's get into Super Eagles talk.
Really too.
Um, After all the transfer drama with Victor Osimhen, simultaneously, the Nigeria Football Federation said, "How can Osimhen be hogging the spotlight?" They also needed to get into the action a little bit. And I don't know, if this was England, yeah, it will probably be saying, "Wow, this is the most embarrassing thing." But because it's Nigeria, like it's embarrassing, but I feel like we've seen worse.
It's normal.
It's
Normal at this
it's
point.
it's kind of what would expect. And because this is a topic that I know my friend has a lot of knowledge on, I'll bring him on now. Smilai, welcome.
Welcome.
We can't hear you.
Thank you for actually having me again. Nice to see you.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing me up here.
It's nice to see you. I wish we had something nicer to discuss today. But yes, the Super Eagles, the NFF, they didn't want to be left out of the drama.
Yeah.
As Mitlai, I'll let you go first on this one. But just to give people context, 3 days ago, the NFF announced German tactician Bruno Labbadia as the new head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. They announced this. We said, even me, I said, why are they doing like vigilantes? Why are they announcing this thing in the middle, in the dark hours when everybody's asleep? But they made the announcement. We said, okay, fine, Bruno Labbadia. We came on this show, we finished breaking everything down. They've made me go and study. I went to go and do research about all his tactics, about everything about him. They just wasted my time, wasted everybody's time, and then all of a sudden, we're hearing reports from Germany today that Labadia said he's not doing again. Contracts are stalled, talks have stalled. Then the NFF came out with a report of their own, and let me just quickly read what they said in their statement to explain what happened. So they said, stringent regulations of German tax authorities have conspired to abort the agreement between the NFF and coach Bruno Labbadia for the latter to mount the saddle as head coach of the Nigerian senior men's team, Super Eagles. Sorry, before I read the rest of the statement, I don't know if it's AY Sugar or Ademola Lookman that writes this statement, but their use of words to try to make it sound more, I don't know whether it's fancy or professional. Which one is German tax authorities have conspired to abort the agreement? As if after the German tax people saw that Nigeria wants to hire a coach, they went to go and make some new law.
Yeah,
let's block the move
for Nigeria.
Then they now said for the latter to mount the saddle as the head coach of the Super Eagles. What was all this grammar for failure? They now said, okay, we have been on this tax issue for the past 3 days. And I told him clearly that there was no way the NFF will agree to offset the concomitant tax percentage on his salary that was demanded by German tax authorities. It is not possible for us to shoulder the responsibility of shelling out another money between 32 to 40% of his salary after paying the agreed monthly wage. The NFF and Mr. Labbadia reached an agreement in principle before we made the announcement that he would become the head coach of the Super Eagles. The tax details were never part of the discussions, and he had personally agreed to all terms before the tax issue came up. We were doing our best to be flexible in the discussions, but he was adamant that the NFF had to pay the full tax amount as well. We simply cannot do that. President of NFF, Ibrahim Musa Gusso. So, Smith-Lai, when we spoke about this coach, Smith-Lai said it that IoT, until the coach himself confirms this appointment, I'm not going to believe. Smith-Lai said it. And just like you called, that the coach will probably not confirm this appointment and Eguavoen will take over. That's exactly as it happened. People that are watching, you people are supposed to donate £5 to Smith-Lai because that was very prophetic. So Smith-Lai, when you saw the news today, you know, what were your thoughts and how are you feeling about this whole situation?
You know, I've never felt that Labbadia will be Nigerian coach. You know, I told you, I said that it's a script, and you know, we can't be sleeping and be facing one side. At least, you know, I know, you said that I don't trust the NFF. In fact, I'm gonna lie to you. I just even finished talking to one of the officials too. You know, the one you just mentioned. He called me prophet of doom. That I'm the one that doomed the appointment. I said, no, it's a script. How can you come and say, here we go? There's no contract. There's nothing between you. The Channels TV called the NFF to ask them, this coach you want to play, can you just give us more about him? Nobody is speaking. So you know exactly what they are trying to do. They're just trying to throw this coach to our face. But it's Eguavoen that is the coach. I'm even hearing that you know, he's already trying to pick assistants. You know, so the issue is this. I'm not surprised that we are not going with Labbadia. For me, I think it's a script. I think the NFF is more of like a politics than football. So, and we're gonna continue like this. I can tell you. I wasn't surprised at all. That's why I said that. You know, that we'll continue like this.
Okay, Olu, I'll jump to you. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I mean, thank God for Smith-Lai's like insider knowledge, because I mean, all I can say is wow. But at the same time, what does wow mean? Nothing is ever shocking. Like there's no depth. There's nothing so beneath. There's nothing below the ground that the NFF cannot reach further down to surpass in terms of failure or being useless. Like it's just disgrace after disgrace after disgrace after disgrace. And I'm sorry, we're not asking for the sun, pearls and diamonds and gold. We just ask for the basics. We have a very good team. We're the most populous country in Africa. Just represent us well and give us a very good team and give them the facilities they need to shine. Simple. And get out of the way. And they can never do it. And yet, Finidi reside did not announce. The time they should have announced something quick, they did not announce it quick. The one that they should now wait till they have information before announcing is the one that they now announce, like you said, in the middle of the night, as if they're trying to like tell the manager, gotcha, oh, we've announced you, we've announced that you're our coach. Now you have to sign for us. Duh. Do they think that Labbadia is in Nigeria where everybody will say, yes, sir, You are older than me. I respect your authority, sir. He's not a grown man that can think for himself. And you announced that you announced that as your coach. Do you know the worst part, bro? They wrote with immediate effects. Anyway, what can we say? What can we say? What can we say, man? What can we say?
No. See, this whole thing, Bruno Labbadia to the NFF, deal has collapsed. It is so hilarious to me, man. One, because Smidlai called it, and when I saw the whole thing collapsing, I was just like, wow. I sent message to Smidlai. I said, Smidlai, you know these NFF people too well. See, two, the explanation that they are giving us, I think it only adds insult to the injury that they've already dealt to Nigerians and Nigerian football fans. Like, we know you guys are incompetent. We already know. We know you guys do anyhow. We know. But at least, see, I would rather they did not even explain. Just tell us Eguavoen is the coach. The deal with Labbadia did not happen. Than to come and try to save face with a very silly statement. You say the tax authorities conspired. Who, like, you think the German tax authorities give a damn about you that much that, oh, Nigeria is going to hire this guy, so let us do something to block the move? Secondly, you said you've let him know about they are not paying this for the past 3 days, and he was insistent on it. Anybody that has a brain knows that these are things that you discuss before anything happens, before any announcement is made. You cannot announce and then later now say, oh, by the way, that tax that your country is asking you to pay, we're not going to pay it. You have to pay it by yourself. My assumption is that they were not aware of that tax. Honestly, that's my assumption. And the man probably informed them about it after. And that, again, only speaks to the incompetence of the people that run our football. Because if you are going to hire somebody from a particular region or whatever the case may be, if there's, like, for example, if a foreign company wants to hire a worker, let's say somebody in England wants to hire a worker from Nigeria, they already know, okay, we're going to have to sponsor this person's work visa. It comes with fees. It comes with all these issues. You cannot hire the person, agree contract, then now come and say, oh, by the way, you have to pay for your work visa by yourself. It just does not make sense. These are things that you would have done your due diligence. You would have known that you need to sort out, and you would have made plans for how everything will be sorted out. If you were not going to pay this tax, this is something that you would have told the person up front. With the same example I used, there's companies that if they want to hire a foreign worker, they'll from the get-go, they will ask you, do you have authorization to work? If you don't, we cannot pay for your authorization. So if you don't have authorization, from the get-go, you know that they're not going to hire you. Again, it only speaks to the incompetence, because it is only the NFF that I've seen that they've not yet signed an agreement. Pen has not been put on paper, and they will come and publicize, make an official announcement. Oh, 37th head coach of the Super Eagles. Make pronouncements. Allow everybody to carry it when you have not put pen on paper. It is embarrassing. It is incompetent. Like, I don't understand how in 2024, this is how we still run football. The biggest sports in Nigeria. In fact, the only sport that they actually take somewhat seriously in Nigeria. This is how we are still running it in 2024. It is a shame. And then the people that are responsible for this, oh, nothing happens. They make silly statements like this, like, oh, German tax authority conspired against you, and then everybody's life goes on. It is sad that this thing keeps happening, man. How do you not know about everything that you need to do before you hire this guy? How is this not a conversation that you've had already? And if you've not had the conversation, like, let's be realistic. If truly the tax is 40% or 32 to 40% of his salary that you agreed, how did you imagine that he would pay that money by himself? Let's be realistic. Like, if they hire any of us for a job and they say there's an additional tax of 40% of your wage that you have to pay, you now say, oh, don't worry, my employer, I got you. I'll be covering the tax. Let us be realistic. Nobody will do that. When we know that the way they run the NFF, they will probably tell him to pay his assistants out of that money that they are paying him. if he wants to get match analyst and all these other things, they will probably make him pay out of pocket. But you still think that he's going to somehow agree to pay a 32% tax? It is just gross incompetence. Smith, unfortunately, you're not the prophet of doom.
Yeah.
You're just somebody that how these people operate. You know that they don't operate well, and you can see these things coming. Some
Yeah.
of us, people like me, we always, I guess I always like to see I'm a half glass full, I'm a glass half full rather type of person. I always like to see the positive and to expect that maybe things will be good. But these people have shown us time and time again that no matter how much we believe in them, no matter how much faith we have, they just cannot get things right. Has there been a Nigerian coach that they've hired in recent times that did not come with drama? Has there been one? I don't understand why we cannot get these things right.
I'm looking at the statement. I can't believe it.
I
Like,
don't
I actually
understand.
can't believe they put this out.
Honestly, like
Obsessed with
I used to be on the NFF's case a lot in the past, to the point that they blocked me on all social media. They used to talk bad about me. In fact, one of the person that I think you spoke to at some point was telling people that he will get boys to beat me. This is a real this is a real thing, because I used to call them out a lot. At some point, they said they will get boys to beat me, everything. But okay, like Mikel Obi said, do your job and I will shut up.
I'm telling
Just
you,
do your job and I will shut up.
I
If
am
you
not
are
asking for
doing
much.
if you are doing your job well, I don't have anything to come and criticize. I don't have anything negative to say about you. But they cannot just do their jobs. And like you said, I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking you to be the best organization in the world. Just the very, very basic things. In fact, my standard has dropped so low. All I'm asking for is don't embarrass us. That's all I'm asking for right now. Just don't embarrass us. And they cannot do that simple thing of not embarrassing us. It's a very big failure. It is embarrassing, but of course, Nigeria, in all aspects, whether in sports, whether in anything else, our leaders, they get gingered by embarrassments. Like they need to be shamed. It's like a kink that they have. They want people to shame them. They want the world to shame them, and they feel, I don't know if they feel joy when it
And the
happens.
worst part, that guy putting that statement out there, he was probably thinking, because they are surrounded by yes men and clearly no professionals. Oh, they are trying to slander the name of the NFF. Let's write that it was the tax law. Or
Guso didn't see. Another thing is Guso didn't write these statements. Guso didn't write these statements. Guso doesn't speak English as well as this. The reality of it is that the communications director probably wrote the statement and maybe showed it to his boss, like, "Oh, is this good?" And boss said, "Oh yeah, go ahead." It is a big shame, man. Like now we're going to be stuck with Smithlai's number one enemy, Austin Eguavoen. Is going to take the team into his hands going into these two games. I mean, Smithlai take over. Like Eguavoen is now going to be the interim coach. What's going to happen from here?
I just want to say something about the tax law. I only we know this thing when you want to do anything outside the country in the UK, you say your tax residence. They might put that one there, your tax resident. You have to be able to sort that one out before we can move forward. IoT can tell you that there's no agreement. It was just like a script. There was no agreement somewhere. There was nothing. It was just there was nothing. There was nothing. The script that we're trying to play was you didn't just work out because that man, said it earlier than them. So, I won't tell you. You said that they don't get shamed. See, you cannot shame someone that does not even care.
No.
Yeah, you can't shame someone that doesn't even care. So the issue is this, it's just a shame, that we find ourselves in this situation. Now we're like a mockery of West Africa, Togo, Nigerian Republic are getting it right. But it's only Nigeria. Everything is difficult. So, and you have mentioned that I don't see him as my enemy. I just think that he's someone that not offered anything good for Nigeria. I don't think that he coached Nigeria several times and there was nothing came out of it. So, in my opinion, I don't think Eguavoen is fit enough to be national team manager. If you have tried Super Eagles twice, you failed. You coached the under 17, you failed. You coached at 23, you failed. You are in the
Worst AFCON results that last time in a long time now. When
yeah,
last
the worst
round of 16.
Yes, the worst AFCON results. and you're still coming back, and you're saying that some people are talking about you, they don't like you. Why I'm not going to like you because you're not doing well. Say people don't like you, they're your enemy. Ooh, I'm not going to like you because you're not doing well. So in my own opinion, I think that it's a different scenario again. We're already in trouble. I don't think it can get any lower again. This actually was one of the lowest time in Nigerian football, I can tell you.
Wow. 6 months after AFCON final.
Final, yes.
That is.
Yes.
And I mean, it's crazy. I don't even know what to say. I don't have much faith in Eguavoen. I believe that this team still has enough quality to potentially beat Benin Republic and Rwanda. But are they going to go back and search for a coach after those 2 games? Because if I'm not mistaken, there's another international window in October.
Yeah.
So is Eguavoen just going to be the coach, or are they going to find somebody else?
If Eguavoen wins 1 game and draw 1, it will stay. I told you about it. I will keep on posting that video I had with you. It's a script. It's a script they're playing. Don't worry, I will keep on playing. And I will tell you something here today again. If they give this man this job, it will qualify Nigeria for the AFCON. But I will tell you that we are not going to the World Cup. They will sack him again before they have next AFCON.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't have access to the NFF's books. I don't know how much money they do or do not have, but it is a big shame that we cannot get things right. So it is a very, very big shame.
We used to even at least before be able to pretend like it was not the NFF picking the squad. But these guys had the audacity to drop a squad list and then put head coach Bruno Labbadia.
Yeah. I asked him that. He didn't reply me. I just asked him that.
They now tell us he did not sign, which means you have now confirmed to us all our suspicions we've always known. How can we now believe the next time you tell us that a coach actually selected a list and he really selected Ahmed Musa? All those times General said, Ahmed Musa is our captain. We need him for the... Do we really believe now? Come on, man.
It's sad. When it's in a sorry situation, like I have to be honest with you.
Okay, somebody here asked a question. I don't know if you have the answer to this, but they said, generally speaking, what is the employment contract basis of any coach hired? In terms of, is the coach an employee or is the coach an independent contractor? Do you know about that, Smith?
So I think as far as the employee, you are an employee of the NFF. That is how I think the NFF categorizes you. Actually, what employee on the NFF. So what's it called? The way they give you contract as an actual what as an employee. No. So but under Pasero, I don't know what they gave Pasero, but previous foreign managers, I think is actually what that employee contract.
All right. Let me see. Somebody's asking, did NFF did he sign contracts before announcing him? No, he did not sign any contract before announcing.
They didn't show him terms and conditions. There's nothing.
That's why you see, even in their statement, they are saying that, we had an agreement in principle. Because BBC reported it shortly after he was announced that, say, this man has not signed any contract. Agreement is not yet. It's just maybe, do you want to be coach? Oh yeah, I want to be coach. Okay. Bruno Labbadia is the new head coach. So there was definitely no agreement. It wasn't as if the man had agreed to something then turned his back. And again,
also, some of the questions they're asking, if you don't sign a contract, you haven't signed a contract. I don't know.
And again, that's the reality. I cannot come and announce tomorrow that, because I had meeting with these people today. Eagle Striker has signed a partnership with Nike. No, it doesn't matter if you've had 20 meetings. Until the contract has been signed by both parties and is considered valid, you cannot make an announcement and say that something is done. It's a big shame. I think they were like, was it Austin Okonakman or who was it that said they were probably just under pressure to announce something? Like, people were asking the question about who is the coach. They were probably just under pressure, and then they jumped the gun, and now it has come to bite them in the butt, because it is a really shameful one. But the coach definitely did not just after agreeing come and say, oh no, I'm not doing anymore. it just wasn't the case. Somebody says, can we have an investigative journalism on this disappointing backing out
Uh,
by Bruno Labbadia? I'm sure some of our journalists, like Shino Kelly and the likes, I'm sure they will find out more about um, what happened. Um, Henry Henry says the NFF need to excessively communicate in words and voice, not in writing. The NFF president is media shy and mute, which I understand. It's the same way when I reach out to certain Nigerian players, they tell me no, they are not interested in talking, not because they don't want to share their story, but because they cannot really speak. They cannot really communicate. And I feel like our NFF president, if you put him under the spot too much and you start throwing questions at him, he might just break down.
but
Right.
I agree with what that person said, because any competent organization, I don't care who you are, if you announce, if I hate using England because they'll say I'm using big boys, Switzerland, Austria, you announce a manager, the first thing you do, you might draw a statement one day, give them one day to rest. The next thing you do straight away, they will take a picture holding the kids and they'll do a press conference.
For people
But
to
you
come and
are
ask
celebrating.
questions. Yeah.
We don't do press conferences in anything. They can't even get like the backgrounds to even look like competent. Anyway, let me not even get to that one. But when you think about all these things, it's just like, what are we doing here? So you're now going to announce somebody, no contract has been signed, no information has been going on, and I was just here smiling and acting like it's normal. Like, it is not good enough. If you had like a press or a confirmed way where every time we have good access to the video, we can see them in presence, we can ask questions. There is no way we will be in this predicament right now where they've announced a coach and 3 days later they've reneged. It's because Nigerians, they've suffered us so much, we've accepted their uselessness. They will drop list. Do you remember the time they put Michael Olise on list one time?
Yeah, yeah,
Or even the other day when they dropped the list, they don't spell the goalkeeper's name right.
yeah.
Like, they don't respect us now. Like, I'm sorry, they're taking the piss. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay. Hybrid 10 is probably an Arsenal fan. Says, I think NFF hoodwinked Nigerians. They never had the intention of hiring a foreign coach, which I support, but they had to be transparent. Honestly, Eguavoen is the right person in these circumstances. So
What?
the person says that he doesn't want them to hire a foreign coach. He's saying he supports them not hiring a foreign coach, but that they should have been transparent with their intentions. And he also says he thinks Eguavoen is the right person. How do you guys feel about that?
Uh, okay, well, Eguavoen is never the right person for Nigeria, and I can remember historically, when we are in this type of mess, we used to call on one person. It's late now. That's late coach Raibu Amodu, He was, yeah,
Yeah,
he was part
yeah.
of the 98, he played 2 games, 98 World Cup qualification. He was part of he finished the 2002 World Cup
That
qualification.
was the first one I watched. That now too. Agali.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And he also qualified Nigeria for the 2010 World Cup. We used to call him, but
3
I have
times.
to be honest with you, either by luck or by
They
I
will
don't
now
know.
sack him.
Yes, by luck or by competence. I think that Eguavoen, though it was unlucky in 2005 when he didn't qualify for the World Cup, but this last World Cup in Qatar, everything he actually did it wrong. So for me, I think he's never the right man. I think he's limited tactically. I think he has failed anywhere he went to Black Leopard, he failed. He went to Gombe United, they relegated them. He went to Sunshine Stars, he failed. So I think that it's not the guy that is actually fit for this job. This national team job. It's not a political,
Ooh,
it's not a
thank you.
political appointment.
Like, what are we doing here? Someone says, can anyone blame Finidi? Finidi called up Tanimu. I'm sorry. For that alone is guilty. And we saw the way he played. No, don't defend Finidi, I beg. But the only thing I want to add here is the fact that that was even a question and someone asked that, okay, Eguavoen is the best person for the job. Nigerians, we have to stop this thing, man. I'm begging us, man. Why are we always happy with just crumbs? Oh, they've brought lights. Thank you, up Nepa. But in a lot of places in the world, if they take lights for 5 minutes, it will be a national emergency. Why are we accepting mediocrity all the time? Oh, Sia is the best for the job. It's like, oh, just manage. Oh, just manage this. Let's just be okay with nonsense. Why? See, look at what Smith Lai said. How many times Eguavoen has failed? Me, I don't even remember all those. I remember the last. I remember this last AFCON that all of you want to kill Maduka Okoye. You don't forgive Maduka Okoye, but is Eguavoen that is the best man for the job, and he's not guilty. What are we doing here now? The same way the Siasia that was banned by FIFA. How many Nigerians have seen try to, oh, how's he going to get back into football? Why is he always the crumbs that he wants to be happy with? I don't get it. This is that I don't want good for our country or the football team. The one thing that brings the whole country together. Always, oh, let's manage this normal rubbish. I don't get it, man. Like, stop it, man. We should want better for ourselves. I'm sorry. If the players now mess up, they will blame the players, They will abuse abuse Iwobi. You think Iwobi wants to go there and to be heard that it's Gusau or Eguavoen that is picking the players? Then they tell them they should share room. They should train on one small cut of grass like this. Enter bus with no AC. What are we doing here now? Playing at a Slim Stadium.
Hmm. Very, very serious stuff. Very serious stuff. But yeah, I think we've kind of covered it. Unfortunately, it's a situation that we find ourselves in. Let us see how things go in camp over these next few games. We have a reporter that is going to be covering the Benin Republic, the home game for us. So expect content on Eagle Striker on all our social media platforms, but most especially on YouTube. Hopefully, we're able to get you some interviews. We're able to get you probably if they have a press conference, we should cover that. Interviews with some players, and just nice, engaging content from the game against Benin Republic. Um, but yeah, looking forward, is it's hard to be hopeful given how things are being run and how things are being done. But I always say, like for me, every hope that I have in the Super Eagles is because of the players that we have. It's not really because of the people that run the football or because of our coaching situation. Because coaching situation is never really clear what is going on. But before the transfer, rather before the international break, of course, Nigerian players are going to be in action again this weekend. Let me just quickly touch on some games that
So,
maybe.
IoT. Sorry,
Okay.
one second, please. I don't know. Maybe before we move on to Nigerian players, I think this IB return. You mentioned something about. He challenged me. I don't know. Maybe you want me to give a rebuttal about that. He
Okay,
challenged me.
let me see. He says, I respect your opinion, Smith. Like, I disagree that Eguavoen is incompetent. Have the NFF created a platform for sustainable success for the coaches they hired? Okay, yeah, you can respond before I go.
Okay. Let me just say something. Thank you for that comment. NFF, NFA, they have been like this since the 80s. They've not created any opportunity for coaches to actually work to do well. You must be there, do your thing, and actually try and perform. Eguavoen made his debut for Nigeria in 1987-88.
Mm,
Eguavoen played for Nigeria for 10 years. Eguavoen understands the system.
mm,
Eguavoen cannot come out and say that he has been treated well by Nigeria. He knows how the system works. Eguavoen was part of the team that what's it called? Has been in around, it was part of the team that went to 2004 AFCON with Christian Shuku, legend himself. What I'm saying basically is this: you understand the system, you know what the system actually wants. You must look for a way to thrive. I did mention this. Our highest defeat to Ghana in history, it was under Eguavoen in Brentford. They call it the Brentford Massacre. Ghana beat us 4-1 in 2007.
I
They call
remember.
it the Brentford Massacre. To tell you that this man is a bad news for Nigeria. And we should look for every avenue to resist this man.
very, 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 very strong words from Smith. Like, okay, so yeah, I said let me just quickly mention some games that fans might want to watch that are coming up this weekend in the English Premier League. Of course, Southampton going up against Brentford. Frank Onyeka is out of Brentford now, but Aribo most likely is going to play for Southampton. Fulham, it will be Bassi playing against Ipswich. Leicester with Wilfred Ndidi playing against Aston Villa. Forest with Aino and Awoni playing against Wolves. Of course, Awoni will be hoping that he can recover from his penalty shootout miss in their Carabao Cup game against Newcastle. We also have in In Italy, we have Lazio with Fisaya Bashiru going up against AC Milan, Samuel Chukwueze. So that's what I like to call a Super Eagles derby
Yeah.
in Italy. That should be an interesting game. That should be an interesting one. So I encourage you guys to tune into that one. In Germany, we have Nathan Teller and Victor Boniface going up against RB Leipzig in the German Bundesliga. So a big, a good test for Bayer Leverkusen to see if they are still serious this year. Should be an interesting one. In France, we have Akko Adams Montpellier going up against FC Nantes with Moses Simon. Of course, Simon just scored his first goal of the season last week. Akko Adams is still waiting to get on the board. Of course, hoping for a better season than he had last season after his goals kind of dried up. So that should also be
Better last
an
week.
an interesting one. Napoli is also playing tomorrow. I don't expect to see. I don't expect to see Osimhen on the field. But Napoli is also playing. And if you like MLS football, we have also not a Super Eagles derby, but a Nigerian derby in the MLS with FC Cincinnati having Awaziem and Umobodo going up against CF Montreal with Sunusi Ibrahim. And then, of course, on Sunday, there's a couple games. Celtic against Rangers, that's Old Firm Derby in Scotland. Leon Balogun, I don't know if he's fit because he had a shoulder injury in the last game, but Cyril Dessas is most likely going to lead the line. We also have, let me just see very quickly which other game is of interest. AS Monaco with Eleni Kena going up against RC Lens with Hamzat or Jedinro. So that could be an interesting one.
Like playing for, is he the one that plays for France or something? No, is he playing for Nigeria?
Well, he's registered as a French player because he has the citizenship. But the reason why I even care about him now is that ever since he joined AS Monaco, they've been referring to him as a Nigerian.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, they have.
you.
They've been posting on their social media, oh, our ego, posting
Oh, wow.
Nigerian flag, all those things. So if AS Monaco, his club, have been referring to him as a Nigerian,
That means he has told
then
them. Ah, that's
yeah,
fantastic.
probably told them, "Oh, I've been Niger boy. I'm not a
Fantastic.
French guy like
Wow.
that." So that's definitely an interesting one to watch. Sevilla with Ejuke and Iheanacho going up against Girona on Sunday. That could be an interesting watch. Girona, of course, City Football Group. Sevilla still trying to find their feet in the new season. Apologies to all the smaller leagues that I'm skipping. I know some people might be watching and saying, "Oh, why am I not calling Romania or Serbia or Slovenia or Slovakia?" My apologies, my apologies for that. And then, of course, on Sunday night slash Monday morning, the Nigeria under-20 women will be kicking off their under-20 World Cup campaign against South Korea. It is 12 a.m. Monday morning for those that are in Nigeria and in the UK. If you are in the rest of Europe or most of the other European countries, that will be 1 a.m. on Monday. If you are in North America, it is 7 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, these are just some games that I think you guys should definitely watch out for in this coming weekend. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, with 3 days left in the transfer window for the likes of Turkey, the likes of Saudi, the likes of the Netherlands, I'm still expecting some moves to happen. People like Onuachu, people like Emmanuel Dennis, there's still a good chance that something comes up for them in the
When
next
does Turkey
few
close?
days. I think Turkey closes on Monday.
Okay.
So yeah, still potentially something that can happen for them. And then Saudi also closes on Monday. So maybe on what you should not even look for a payday in Saudi, man. Like
And
what's he trying to do again in Europe, man? Just go to
I
Saudi
agree.
and go and enjoy himself. People are
Bro,
not really nobody is looking for him like that again. People are not really expecting him in Super Eagles. Just go and get your big payday. But yeah, any final word from you guys before we wrap up?
okay, let me just, guys, those that are saying that I did not hate Eguavoen, I'm just telling you the truth. And about Nigerian players actually what moving, in fact, the most, I think we can rest now on Tuesday. The most difficult transfer saga is actually what's over. Every week we're talking about it. Thanks for actually was staying with us. And secondly, too, I expect some Nigerian players to move to Turkey.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because I know that there is no way we'll find them in Turkey. So I don't want to mention names now. I think you have mentioned some of them that can still move. I think we can expect some Turkish actually what move there too. So very interesting transfer final day. IoT, it's been like up and down transfer, we didn't know until the last minute when
True.
we say deal off, before we know where the pendulum will swing. And with the NFF coming to tell us too about the manager no show, it has been a very difficult day.
Eventful day.
I can't tell you about that.
Yeah.
But guys, at least I say what comment teachers and we enjoyed it. Yeah.
Olu,
Now,
final word.
now, same for me. Like it's been a very eventful day. Like I think sometimes we need to stop and take in that okay, very big things have happened. It's not every day it's transfer window or
Mm-hmm.
your star player is the talk of the football world or NFF will drop another bomb as they always do. So it's been nice to talk it out and just like look, we all love football for a reason. At the end of the day, it's entertainment and we enjoy talking about it. So it's always a pleasure. Our players, obviously, now that it's finally done, it's nice to see where everybody lands, and hopefully, our players will flourish. I think part of why we all do what we do in terms of Nigeria is the excitement of seeing who the new breakout people will be. Chris Santos Uche already in La Liga, he's already exciting, so really looking forward to seeing where everybody lands and how they play this year. And honestly, with Nigeria at this point, Alan says, may God not shame us. We have Benin next week. Please just win. Whatever will be at this point.
Yeah, and just before we go, we didn't mention this, but just to let you guys know, what's his name again? Hafiz Ibrahim, the young boy who was on trial at Chelsea, has signed for Stade de Reims
Mm-hmm.
in the
Okay.
French league. So the Chelsea one didn't quite work out, but at least he was able to find himself a move, and everything did not just go um, into the air for him. I know I promised you guys this interview with Francis Uzoho. It's still coming. It's still coming. I'm not giving you false hope. Today wasn't the right day to publish the interview with everything that was going on, but it will definitely be published within the next week. I guarantee you guys that. But before we go, I have a video clip to play for you guys before we go.
Yes, I like his style of football. I do. It's a bit risky. It keeps you on the edge, but I like.
So Guardiola, that's the style of football that we expect. That's the style of football that we expect from the Super Eagles.
A good one, man.
when they play their friendlies, I think when they play the Afro qualifiers against Benin and Rwanda,
Mm-hmm.
Guardiola style. But yes, thank you very much to everyone that has engaged with us tonight. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for staying up, guys. Olu and Smidlai, I appreciate you guys as always.
Always
This has been an interesting one, covering all the different transfers, talking about the Super Eagles. It's we hope that next time we come on, maybe on Tuesday when we come on for our regular
Mm-hmm.
scheduled program. Hopefully, we have something good to talk about. But of
one
course,
positive though. Gift
one
Urban. Gift Urban.
Urban,
You
God
like
of the mark.
that.
On Sunday nights, or early morning for Nigerians, or maybe we'll do it because it's an early morning fixture. Maybe we'll do it during the day. But I would also want us to talk about the under 20 girls and their first game. Even though we're not fully focused on them, I think they deserve coverage. They deserve us to talk about them. So we'll do it on Monday during the day when people have slept and woken up. But yeah, and the Francis Uzoho interview is still coming. I promise you guys within this next week it will be published. And I'm sure that you guys will enjoy it. Until next time,